Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's stream. And this is actually, I think, a pretty important stream, but it is something that I normally that can be discussed relatively quickly. So I didn't want to do it on a longer weekend stream. So what we're going to discuss today is, I'll put the title is "What is the Holy Grail of research gaps for qualitative papers?" Of course, um, and one of the things that I think we all struggle the most when writing is claiming a gap, right? Is saying, okay, there's something that deserves to be studied. Okay, and the usual approach to that that I see, especially in first rounds, and I'm still guilty of this sometimes as well, is people basically saying nobody has done a research on this before, and I always sort of like try to remind myself of this quote by Thoreau in a book called Walden, where he says something like it's not worth the while to go around the world to count the number of cats in Zanzibar. And the idea is that not everything that we do not know is worth knowing. Just because there's a gap in research, nobody has studied a specific topic. That doesn't mean that that topic is worth studying, right? And the super traditional mistake here that you see especially in master thesis, is people saying, nobody has studied this in France. Okay, fine, but why should we care that nobody has studied this in France or England? Well, maybe we should care because there's specifics to the institutional conditions in France that make France an interesting research setting. But then it's not about studying something in France, but studying something under a specific set of institutional conditions. Okay, so for me, what I see as the ultimate validation of a gap, okay, is when there is analysis but not theory on a specific topic or a specific research question. And I'm going to show you what that means by showing you how that inspired my first and second MS quarterly papers. And there's a bit of a difference between the inspiration from both that I want to highlight. So let's go for the 2013 paper. So the inspiration for that paper and the justification for the research question in that paper, which is how people use the production of performance data for impression management, comes from a 1996 paper by Wanda Orlikowski in ISR, if I'm not mistaken, titled "Improvising Organizational Transformation Through Time." Okay, and in that paper, you see the first sentence of the abstract on top. It says that the purpose of that paper is to outline a perspective on organizational transformation. Okay, that's it. So this paper is not about the production of performance management. It's not about impression management, dramaturgical approach to organizations, dramaturgical approach to information systems. No, it is about organizational change, IT-led organizational change, right? But in the results section of that paper, there is this results section lists a bunch of practices, and one of the practices is impression management. Okay, and the paper provides. I'm only presenting a little bit of that section. There's data in that section, but I'm just showing you the interpretation of that data that Wanda Orlikowski wrote here. And basically, what she's writing here is that she found that when people were reporting their work, so production of performance data, they were doing so partially for impression management. Okay, so this is what the Holy Grail is about. It is somebody finding data about your phenomenon. It's somebody analyzing that data and saying this data is an instance of impression management. But then their entire paper is about something else, which means that then you can write on your own paper that this process of the dramaturgical production of performance data has been documented in previous literature, but it has not been theorized, right? So somebody has published a study that has found this phenomenon, that has shown that this phenomenon is of consequence, that this is something important that is happening in organizations, but they haven't theorized it. This is not a paper, Wanda Orlikowski's is not a paper about the dramaturgical production of performance data. It's not a paper about impression management with technology. It is a paper on organizational transformation, on organizational change. That's what you want, right? That's what you want, because you can just cite this directly in at the end of your theory section, right? When you're outlining or justifying your research question and saying, again, this phenomenon has been documented, but not theorized. And so your paper just, simply standing on the shoulders of giants is theorizing this phenomenon that somebody else has already identified and analyzed. And obviously it helps a lot if this is a paper with thousands of citations published in the top journal, which is the case with this paper of Wanda Orlikowski. I would say that, either a few hundred citations or a top journal would be a requirement for this. If this is a very small paper that you're drawing upon, you can still make the argument, but you'll probably need to find a few more examples to sort of like bolster your claim. Okay, so this is the Holy Grail. Data about what you're studying, data that is analyzed, so there is some light theorization, if you will, but in a paper that is about something completely different, right? So this simply allows you to say, this very smart person or these very smart people in this very influential paper have said that this really matters, and said this is something that really happens in organizations. So let's just build a theory around that. And that's essentially what my 2013 paper in MIS Quarterly does. Okay. Now, you may also look at previous research for validation. And this is when you have data. Okay, so again, it is documented, but it is not analyzed in the way that you are analyzing it. Okay, and that's the example for that is my 2018 piece on transfiguration work, also on MIS Quarterly. Now, the idea for that paper also came from this exact same paper from Wanda Orlikowski, but it came from, let's say, data rather than analysis. So that paper has a section, a practice, talks about the practice called manual recording of calls. So that's a practice, right? So there is no transfiguration practice. right? There's no translation, no synonym of transfiguration. They're just manual recording of calls, okay? But if you read the description of that practice in detail, basically, the at least the core of transfiguration work is here, right? And basically this part of the paper is talking about how people, these are customer service reps, would take manual notes in when they were taking a call, because this was easier for them to do their work. But then they had to report this on the information system. And Van der Rakowski even says that, sometimes they have this is sort of on the first column. She writes about how this was a really burdensome task that people had to do after they did their job. So that's where the idea for transfiguration work came from this idea that people have to report this data after they into an information system that was for their managers, for the company, which was separate from the information system, pen and paper, but it's an information system that they used to do their job. So the idea is there. So I could still claim that this process has been documented, and I did in the paper, that this process has been documented in several other papers, but the analysis is not there, right? In the previous slide, the analysis is there because this is classified as impression management, and that's what I'm talking about in my 2013 paper, Production of Data as Impression Management. Here, it's just about manual work. There is no emphasis on the transposition from one system to the other, but the core is still there, okay? And what this tells me is that this is a process or a practice that has been documented, but I would say it has been under theorized. So that the interpretation here is just that this is manual labor, but I add an additional layer of interpretation that says that this manual labor is not just transcription, but also actually transfiguration, and I theorize around that, okay? So this is what you want. You want your gap to come from documented evidence in previous papers, data that others have found, data that others have analyzed, data that others have published, but that they have not interpreted in the way that you can interpret it. And for me, that's the Holy Grail. It's not a gap in a literature review table. It's not a research question that nobody has, thought about before. It is data that people have analyzed, but either not theorized, so not modeled in a way that I would. So Vanda used the impression management data to model, to develop a model on organizational change. I used to develop a model on the production of performance data. Van der Rakowski talked about labor in reporting, but she did not, categorize and specify the process whereby this labor is done. So in this case, under theorize. That's what you're looking for. You are not looking for a paper that nobody wrote. You are looking for data that is under theorized, like here, where Vanda says this is just work, and I explain, no, this is not like manual work. This manual work is an instance of this bigger process called transfiguration work. Or the best of the best is that somebody already, showed that your phenomenon exists and explained it a little bit, just not enough, right? So Vanda has a page on this, on impression management. I have an entire paper. That's the thing, right? So hopefully this will be helpful for you when coming up with your research questions and finding research gaps. Um, Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about how to paint yourself into a corner to get more creative when coming up with research ideas. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll just quickly jump into chat to see if there are any questions. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Let's see. Any questions in chat? No. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.